Hello everyone, it's Piotr, blockchain noob. Today we have a great guest from Nexus, Preston. Welcome.
Hi everybody.
I really like it. Thank you that you find time in this busy week. So today we have interview with Preston about the Nexus project. If you have any questions about this project, you can ask them in the chat. At the end of our interview, I will read these questions to our guests. And you can ask this question in English or Polish, I will translate it. So Preston, let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us something more about Nexus? It's about blockchain, about satellites. How it began?
Sure. So Nexus is a long-standing project. We launched the blockchain on September 23rd of 2014. And the project is kind of built from there. Colin Cantrell, our lead developer, he started the project with a lot of ideas in mind, building something new from the ground up. He started with Bitcoin and Peercoin code and recoded those systems with a lot of new and innovative ideas in mind. Originally, the project was titled Coin Shield, and one of the goals of the project was to help try to eliminate a lot of the scam coins that were coming out very frequently back then. And it was it was obviously a very noble cause, but the rate at which new coins were being generated eventually was just, there were just so many that goal kind of sort of was subsided. But the project has evolved into something great. As long I've been involved with Nexus since February of 2015, shortly after the project started, and it's evolved into something much greater. A lot of things have developed in the meantime. Obviously, we have come together and have much larger goals than we had originally. But Colin did, initially when he started the project, he did, look at things like quantum computers being around the corner. He said, hey, what can I do to make these more secure? Because we know they're coming. And that's one of the, the groundworks that he started with for Nexus. So.
Yeah, and also the thing that for me is quite different in Nexus is that most projects are focused only on the software, so they just create the software to create the network. But in Nexus, you also focus on the infrastructure, so you don't want to be dependent on the centralized internet, right?
Correct. So obviously our goal is to have a network that is completely independent of existing infrastructure. That is certainly a large task to take at hand. However, we do have the pieces in motion for that to occur, and I'm sure you'll hear some more about that at the conference. But we want to try to get away from centralized systems. We want to do something that's something that we can operate independently of ISPs or people who don't like what you're doing and say for example, even with Google, some cutting people's news feeds or deleting their videos or that kind of thing. So we want to have something that is free and open and allows our network to be transmitted.
Yeah, but some people can say that in the mid of August, Blockstream launches satellites with Bitcoin to the space, and some people can say we don't need another coin, another cryptocurrency. We already have Bitcoin, which is independent. We have satellites, so why we still need Nexus?
Sure. So I applaud Blockstream for what they've done. I mean, obviously, any technological advance is a great move forward for any cryptocurrency. My understanding of what Blockstream has done is essentially renting space on a satellite and bandwidth. What we intend to do is have our own satellites, and we will have our own satellites launched that will not be under the control of one corporation or one body that says, "Oh, well, we don't like
that's very nice. Do you have any timeline for this?
Well, our plan is to have satellites up in 2018. Obviously, this is a long-term project. It's not something that you put 2 satellites up and you're done. It's something that we're going to grow over time, build the constellations over time, and keep putting up as many satellites as we can.
Yeah, and the other thing that is quite different in Nexus, it's about how the network is secured, because Bitcoin is usually you use proof of work, but in your case, it's different. It's like 2 proof of work algorithms, and also there is something like I say proof of stake, right? And how you can combine these 3 things together.
Sure, that was one of the innovations that Colin considered from the beginning. We have the 2 proof of work channels, the hashing channel, which is a standard proof of work type channel, and we also have the prime channel, historically called the CPU channel because that's where most folks had CPU mined. People still do that as well. And then we have the Nexus proof of hold channel, which is a proof of stake type mechanism with some tweaks to it. You're actually you are actually mining on the network when you are holding your coins in your wallet and your wallet is open. It is a proof of stake type mechanism, and it was based on proof of stake, but it is a little bit different. But that does increase our security because you would have to control the entire network. You would have to have 51% of each of those channels in order to properly attack the network and take over the network, which would be very difficult and at this point, very expensive, even with just proof of the Nexus proof of hold channel to acquire enough Nexus to be able to actually, formulate that attack. And the other 2 channels were, launched originally, and the proof of hold channel was launched, I think, in June of 2015, I believe. So.
Yeah, and when I was reading about mining in Nexus, there was also the term called trust key. Can you tell something more about this?
Sure. So currently, as the network works with the proof of hold, proof of stake type mechanism, as you hold your coins, you get registered on the network, and that basically comes as a Genesis key. And the Genesis transaction. And what the Genesis transaction does is sort of register your wallet on the network. And once that happens, you get what's a trust address. And as you hold the coins, you get a reward as you are finding blocks, and that shows up as trust payments. And so what you actually are doing is you're showing how much time you have invested in the network. So the longer you hold those coins and keep your wallet open, you build your trust, and it adds to your trust key. And the interest rate will run, the reward rate runs from 0.5% to 3% over the course of a year, assuming that you can keep the wallet open nonstop for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that will be shifting some and changing a little bit in Tritium when Tritium is released to make some adjustments to that through trial and error. We've seen, right now, if you don't stake a block within 24 hours, you lose your trust key. That's been frustrating for many of us, but it's one of those things that is being changed and being developed on, and we'll come out with our Tritium Trust update when it's ready.
And when we can expect this update?
So the alpha version will be discussed in more detail at the conference. Colin's been working on it diligently, fixing minor bugs, software testing. Software, can do some unexpected things at times, and when you're having a major update, it takes a little more time to test and refine those. And we certainly don't want to put something out that isn't ready for people to start testing. But it's close, very close.
Yeah, and another thing that I really like in Nexus Network is that in the Bitcoin you have the like halving every 4 years, and the same with the difficulty of the network. We need like more than 2,000 blocks to change the difficulty, but in Nexus, both things, the difficulty of the blocks and the reward is adjustment in every single block, so it's like real time.
Right, it's a logarithmic curve, and it adjusts very quickly to changing difficulty. That's one of the mechanisms that Colin looked at originally with Bitcoin and thought, well, hey, when the happening happens, things in the network change, and we want to try to avoid the shock of a happening, and let's develop a way that it's more stabilized and more uniform throughout. So that is one of the things that he decided would help improve the protocol for Bitcoin.
Yeah. So let's move to the conference. So
Sure.
From my point of view, the Nexus is like underhyped project. You have some great ideas, so great technical approach, but not so many people heard about Nexus. Even some people that invest in your coin don't know what exactly you are doing. So I think this conference is something like to show to an entire community what Nexus is about, to be, I can say, more mainstream.
Sure. So throughout the years, we've gone through great lengths not to hype our project. We prefer steady, solid growth, especially in the market. And we have, had a small core community, and we've had limited marketing, those sort of things to keep the hype away. We really didn't ever want it to be a pump and dump coin. We wanted to, people to invest. Not saying it isn't okay for people to trade, because people trade Nexus all the time, but we wanted to build a solid base on our community and our network and our growth to be solid. So we haven't really reached out a whole lot as far as marketing. You're starting to see more of that with the conference. We've got a huge marketing team working on the project now for the conference, and many of those will continue to work throughout, after the conference to continue marketing. We put together the conference as, a hey world, here is Nexus type of event, and a lot of that, is being reflected with the marketing for the conference. The conference started out, as something simple, but turned into something much greater with the number of speakers and the events that are going on. I mean, we have, film festivals and debuts and music contests, and people from political.
Yeah, it sounds like the festival. Yeah.
Yes, it really has turned into something very broad, and it's great because it brings in a lot of people from a lot of different areas, which is our goal as Nexus, to connect people. And in order for blockchain technology and cryptocurrency to move forward, we need to have people from all walks of life and diverse groups to understand what this technology can do and why we need it, and what we can do as Nexus and other groups to make it more understandable, to move it forward, to take it to the next level.
Okay, can you tell us something more about the speakers?
So we have, a very diverse group of speakers. We try to, get folks from not just cryptocurrency, but finance, from politics, from music, from art, different people from the libertarian movement, people who are some really big names. Like we have folks like, Ron Paul is headlining it. We have G. Edward Griffin. We have Jesse Ventura. Just a whole host of folks. You can check out our lineup at nexusearth.com/conference.html. There's just a number of different folks who have decided to come, and it's great. For example, Dr. Ron Paul, he he has never really done or attended a cryptocurrency conference, and for many of us, that's very big. He has a very large following over here in the United States of folks who really kind of understand cryptocurrency and where it should go. And I'll be interested to hear his thoughts on that as well. But yeah, very diverse group of folks, and we tried to reach out, and it's actually turned out to be something that's going to be pretty amazing, to be honest.
Yeah, I like this approach that you don't focus only on the industry, but you also go broader, because it works in two ways. Also, you as an industry can learn from others, but also others can learn about the cryptocurrency and go and spread the great news about this. Okay, but of course, not every one of us can be with you in Aspen, so there will be online transmission.
We intend to upload speaker videos up to our YouTube channel. We are working out whether or not we're going to be able to fully live stream. There will be some folks there videotaping, and obviously, people may upload individual content. An interview that I did, got a couple guys that are coming from the band Corrected Axiom are going to probably do a show from there, a live stream at some point. So there will probably be a lot of that. We haven't quite exactly worked out everything as far as whether we'll be able to live stream things or not.
Okay, that would be nice if the live stream will be available. And my next question, you probably won't answer this question, but can you share with us any news, any updates that you will inform with the conference about the Nexus?
Colin really has kept a lot of that under wraps. I mean, we know that he's going to talk about Tritium and those kind of updates. As far as giving you guys any kind of inside information about what will be talked about, I really wouldn't want to do that. We'll have to stay tuned to our social media to see if there's anything exciting.
Yeah, I expect this kind of answer for this question. Yeah, so let's go into the future. Let's assume we'll meet again in the next year. So how the network of Nexus will look in the next year?
Well, we definitely will increase. Our user base is increased. The coding that Colin is doing with the Tritium, Amine, and Obsidian updates will vastly increase the power of the network and allow it to also be able to be built upon. We certainly hope that we'll have satellites up and functioning, as a means for our network to be broadcast. But the network itself should definitely grow as long as people are using it. The more nodes, the more wallets that we have that are open and using the network helps as well. So we definitely hope to be increasing our user base and help the network that way as well.
Okay, so let's go with the questions from our audience.
Yeah.
The first question is also about the future, but going further. What is your vision about the Nexus in the 3 to 5 years?
So there's a lot of work to be done with Nexus. We have a lot of folks with a very diverse background. For example, my background is environmental science, and there are some issues that and some things that I would like to do as far as those types of things in the future when we get freed up, when we have more folks helping out, and I have a little more time. But Nexus is a large project, so there are many different aspects. Developing the network, building, growing. I mean, obviously, many people want to hear about the market. Personally, I really am, of course, happy to see Nexus finally get more value, but I'm not personally concerned about price as far as the next 3 to 5 years. I think that we'll see a steady increase with Bitcoin and as more money flows into cryptocurrencies in general. But in 3 to 5 years, Nexus should be more widely known, and we should definitely have a larger network and user base.
Yeah, and the next question from the same person is about Cube satellites. Is there already any Cube satellites of Nexus in the space? And is there any chance to see how the satellites looks like?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the question is, have you already sent any Cube satellite into space? And is there any chance to see how it looks like?
We have not launched any Cube satellites into space yet. Vector is still perfecting their rocket methodology, and as soon as they're ready to start commercial launches, we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, and as mentioned before, a few minutes later, it's maybe in the next year, right?
Correct. Yes, 2018 is our goal. There is a whole host of information. If you search YouTube and NASA, there is a whole host of information on CubeSats. If you look up John Garvey, also he helped pioneer a lot of that early research. There's volumes of information about CubeSats, and I actually watched a good bit of information about them to kind of understand the background and where things were coming from. And I stumbled across an excellent NASA video that talked about John Garvey, who is, a founder of Vector Space Systems. And he, it showed his early rocket designs and some test launches and discussed CubeSats and how that program got started and why we have them and why it was developed. Very, very good videos. I wish I had the link to it. I watched it and moved on and didn't save the links, but there are definitely some excellent videos out there if you're interested in that technology.
Okay, cool. Next question is a little technical. The question is about how many lines of code is already in Nexus. So how big is code base?
I don't know the exact number, but hundreds of thousands. And with Tritium being updates being pushed, if you check the development branch on our GitHub repository, Colin has been pushing new code periodically in preparation for those updates, but hundreds of thousands of lines, and then a lot of that is original code as well.
Yeah, so every one of you can just check it on the GitHub. Okay, well, I need more questions. Yeah, I have some questions that people asked me before the interview. The first question is about you and your Nexus project, Nexus Earth, and your relations with Nexus Social. There is any relation?
Sure. So for me, as I mentioned earlier, I got involved in Nexus and met Colin around February of 2015. And we sort of talked. I was working with a different project at the time, actually with Keith Smith, and we chatted and we kind of hit it off. We kept our relationship going and moving forward, and we, talked a lot. And one day, Colin said, "Hey, I'm doing this stuff all by myself. I need some help." And I said, "Well, let's do it." I said, "Let's put a team together. We'll start to build a team." And Nexus had a core community, a small core community, mostly made up of miners, those kind of folks. And what we did was we took it and we built a community, and we built a lot of content and websites, and reached out to people and developed Facebook groups and built a Slack community as well. My primary role was Nexus community manager, making sure things were being taken care of, making sure people weren't spamming Slack, make sure that community members were communicated to. As we've gotten very large, we've had numerous other people come in and help manage a lot of those things as well. But that's my primary role.
Yeah, thank you for your answer, but probably you didn't understand my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My question was, there is also the project called nexus.social.
I'm sorry. We are not affiliated with Nexus Social. Originally, when they named their project, we reached out to them and said, "Hey, you're kind of using our name," and there was some discussion back and forth about them potentially changing their name, but I haven't followed it much lately. They did. I won't say they used our name, but they did market as Nexus. And some of their advertisements, I kept, we got tons and tons of questions. Hey, are you associated with Nexus Social? Is this Nexus Social? What do you guys, how do I buy your ICO? I'm like, we're not an ICO, it's not our project.
Exactly. So there is no relation.
Not at all. No relationship.
They just pick the name.
Sure.
Yeah, and the next question is about decentralization. How Nexus want to be more decentralized than Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Sure. So obviously, to move things forward, in my opinion, for humanity, you need to have more decentralized systems. That doesn't mean that there aren't always going to be some form of centralization. I don't know that it's completely possible to decentralize everything, but our goal is to decentralize as much as possible. In our future updates, we will have a more decentralized network where we will have voting groups. For example, people who hold Nexus coins and proof of hold, there'll be one voting group. The miners will be another voting group. The developers will be another voting group. The ambassadors will be another voting group. So there'll be a whole host of different voting groups in the network. So as proposals come up, those folks get to vote on it. And your perspective on something may be different than mine, but as a consensus, those groups will all come together and have a consensus, rather than say just the miners making a decision about what update to push, or the core developers deciding what programs or changes to the code are available. So if somebody from outside develops something that everybody else likes, but the developers say, I don't like that, I don't want that on my network, and it gets voted in, it gets voted in. So we want to try to decentralize many things, with our network, and also obviously with the internet and our network in low Earth orbit as well.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. The next questions are from Victor. He thinks that maybe the satellites that are independent and the decentralized are not enough for people to convince them to use Nexus in the next few years. So maybe your vision is like the big goal, the future. But what about, let's say, current problems that can be solved quicker are addressed by Nexus?
Well, one is quantum resistance. We certainly have that, and we've discussed that a little earlier. The security of the network itself being broken up into three different block minting channels. Those are a couple things that we're doing now. A lot of it is outreach as well, building value, those kind of things, getting the word out about cryptocurrency, bringing people together from different walks of life. Those are things that we're actively doing now. As far as the time frame for satellites, correct, nothing happens overnight. Colin says many times that he has a 50-year plan, and he really does. He has a large vision for what he specifically does for Nexus. He has a long vision. He has many ideas. He's building the platform to make those a reality. And again, this, with the Cube satellites, we intend to grow that network. So it may start off small and it may not be immediate, but eventually, as it grows and as we launch more satellites, it will have more of an impact.
Yeah, and the last final question is about your opinion about China, about the banning the ICOs and closing the currency exchange. What is your opinion about this? And is Nexus somehow preventing us from this kind of situations?
Sure. ICOs are an interesting thing. On one hand, they are very free, and it's something that is a libertarian. I like the idea of being able to raise money for projects outside of government regulation. However,
yeah, I also like it.
it does breed things like the scam coins. You know, without going and saying, calling something specific a scam, you don't know what you're getting if you invest in an ICO. So a lot of it's more speculative, where I say, oh, this price is going to go up, so I'm going to invest in this project hoping that the price goes up. Not so much as, are these people going to deliver in 4 years, 5 years? I will say this, there are not a lot of blockchain developers. There just are not enough people who know how to code the blockchain. And there are a lot of projects showing up. And my concern there is that there aren't people to code them. Now, there are also a lot of ICO projects that are not necessarily blockchain related or don't have a component of the blockchain.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff does breed innovation. I mean, maybe we'll see something that is great come out of these. I hesitate whenever I personally invest in ICOs. I'm very careful with it. I've invested in ICOs long ago when they first started, and I've lost money. I've made some on some. You know, I'm very skeptical. I want to make sure that, you know, I know who's behind it. I know that they have the coders to be able to pull off the project if it is something that deals with blockchain. But again, you know, the libertarian side of me says, hey, let's do this free market thing. If people want to throw their money at things and they lose it, that's on them. But you also have the, you know, people who will convince people you're going to make 100% gain. Put your money in, and try to take people's money. So it's a tough thing to balance. But as far as Nexus as a team, you know, we try not to promote ICOs as a team. You know, like I said, my personal view is a little bit mixed. I don't necessarily think that they're a bad thing, but you have to be careful.
Yeah, but do you think that it's good that the countries like China take care about the people and then they just ban ICOs, for example, or they're closing the stock exchanges?
Yeah, so of course China wants to keep control of things. They want to figure out a way to profit from what's going on. I think what we're seeing is more of that sort of idea. The US did a similar thing with the Security and Exchanges Commission. They come out and said that if your ICO basically offers a profit sharing, that you may be a regulated security. And I think that China is doing something similar to that. I think a lot gets lost in translation from China to, say, the rest of the world and what people say. And then somebody hears one little thing and they're posting it on Twitter, and then everybody else is picking up what they're saying and writing articles about things. And I think some of that stuff gets a little overblown if it doesn't come from official channels, although there are people who do talk to people behind the scenes and may have some additional information. One example is Charlie Lee from Litecoin. He posted some information that he received to get out to folks. So you have to approach that with caution. I think that markets obviously react very quickly to those kind of things. And I think that some people fuel that. Let's get this fear out there so that the market goes down and we can short the market or buy low and, you know, wait for a profit. But I think that, you know, China's doing more just being themselves and just trying to rein in and have control over things.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was the last question. Thank you, Preston, for your time and the knowledge you share with us. I wish you good luck with the conference, and I hope there will be the live stream, so we'll be able to be with you at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
See you.
Bye-bye.